This is Stu Taylor on business. Now, Stu Taylor.
Okay, good morning. Another great day, I hope, for you, and we're happy to have joining us. As I want to get in every minute because there's so much to talk about today that I think we should jump right into it. And joining us here is W. Scott Thomas, the president and founder of Ascension Wealth Advisors. His role in precious timber is an independent investment advisor, and that makes recommendations into Latin American agriculture and alternating investments. And we've talked about alternative investments. Hold on. Okay, somehow that jumped in. So we're going to begin today, and we've got a lot to talk about. So let's talk about, first of all, and I want to get to that discovery tour because that sounds exciting, but let's open up here first about really where we go here, and a little bit of an opening about what precious timber does, and why are timber, coffee, and coconuts well suited for individual investors?
Super. Thank you, Stu. It's good to be here this morning. Many of it all starts with due diligence for our clients at Ascension Wealth Advisors, and as we begin to search for alternative investments, we wound up finding percentages of allocations in portfolios that fit well for, up to about a 30% allocation in overall investments into alternative investments. And some of those allocations, percentages, we look to invest in agriculture. We love agriculture, specifically Latin American agriculture. So as we go through our due diligence worksheets and our policies and procedures, all the things that we do for our clients in recommending investments, we began to take a strong, hard look at precious timber, the company Precious Timber, and we began to have a lot of due diligence meetings with Alex, the CEO of Precious Timber, and I also went down for my clients to Nicaragua, specifically in Nicaragua for this particular investment that we are allocating to. Did a tremendous amount of due diligence on the country of Nicaragua and the various types of investments that we were looking at, which is the timber and the coconut and the coffee. So when we look at various types of returns and how that enhances portfolios, the first one being, managed timber returns roughly 14% annually as an investment, and you can track that very easily. And so those are tropical hardwoods that are in demand. Same thing with coconuts. Coconut supply and demand, Stu, has certainly the demand has increased the supply. So we have really a good situation for long-term investment. Coffee is fantastic, and it kind of goes the way of Colombia and Brazil, and it's a commodity traded and can easily track that. So when you blend a portfolio of coconuts, coffee, and timber into long-term returns, it's fantastic for accredited investors. There are other ways that a typical investor can participate in these types of investments, but they're specifically mainly around an accredited investor for parts of the long-term portfolio.
So you're looking at free, simple ownership, or what's called the fund, right?
Yeah, you can invest two ways with PreciousTimber.com. You can learn more about it, but for our investors, you've got a fund. It's a Reg D 506 fund, and so it's totally, all the due diligence is done. And so I know there's a lot of fear out there sometimes for investors to understand what it's like to actually invest in a foreign country, especially Nicaragua. So we want to help the clients understand all that. But in the fund, you've got a 50% allocation in managed timber. Again, those returns are very high. Coconuts produce a 50-year income, and then you have a coffee allocation. So it's 50% timber, 40% coconut, and 10% coffee. And all of that is in a blended fund, and the minimum on that is a $100,000 investment or a $100,000 minimum to participate in that. Then you mentioned the fee-only or the fee-simple ownership in real estate, which is the same thing that we have in the United States. So you actually own the real estate, and then there's a plantation agreement. And so the plantation agreement simply has the crop care cost and some of the fees that are involved in it. And so as a due diligence person, we've looked at all the, is it security? Is it real estate? And we actually see it as real estate, but we have these, we talk to our clients about them being actually a security because they're managed contracts. So Precious Timber has packaged all that perfectly for the investment advisory world to recommend these to their clients. So, and it's really an enhanced return situation that works well with cash flows and security or in Social Security retirement. So it really works well for that allocation. One of the things you mentioned is the Discovery Tour, and I know that I'll be down in Nicaragua September 4th and 5th, November, Saturday, the 4th of November, and Sunday, the 5th of November. And I want to encourage anybody that is really looking to understand more to come down to San Juan del Sur. The Precious Timber team will take wonderful care. It's a great country, but you get to meet and see the plantation operations. You get to see all the team members of Precious Timber, and it's absolutely fascinating. And it's a fantastic way not only to understand the timber, coconut, coffee, but to see the heart of Precious Timber and get to know Alex, and then see the wonderful city and area around San Juan del Sur where they have all their plantations. So
can you give a few more specifics on that trip that'll let people know what's involved?
Absolutely, and we prefer somebody that's really interested and they're really taking a look at it to come down, and we're going to take great care. But it's November 4th and 5th coming up, and you can simply go to PreciousTimber.com, and there is a place in there for you to get more information, and then just literally call the office, and they're on the website. There's the number, all the contact information, and they're going to help you organize everything. So it's a fantastic way to really get a feel for what we're talking about in these types of investments.
All right, joining us is Scott Thomas, part of the team, the very competent team at Precious Timber. You can go to PreciousTimber.com and you can get all the information. I would absolutely check out on this Discovery Tour. It's fantastic. Hope to be there myself Saturday, November 4th and Sunday, November 5th. Come see the farms, meet their team. It's too many details for me to check. So if you want to contact them, by all means, do that right away, and you can make the decision. Scott, how is the investment return generated for individual investors? There's a few details.
Yeah, so there's several ways. The acquisition price, obviously, once you get into a due diligence scenario with the Precious Timber team, you're going to be able to ask all these questions. So I've asked them, but the main thing is that the way that Alex is able and his team is able to purchase the land on the acquisition prices, they're very well connected down there. So they get a good price on the farmland that they purchase, and they're purchasing thousands and thousands of acres, literally, and they begin the planning process. So you've got the acquisition prices very good. you have biological growth, which is uncorrelated to the market. So we know that in agriculture, it's not tied to the equity marketable securities.
Scott, can you stay with us for another segment? There's so much to cover. I hate to end this.
I absolutely will. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be right back. All right, we're back, and we're rejoined in an extra segment here this morning because there's so much to cover with Precious Timber. You can go to PreciousTimber.com. Scott Thomas is joining us here this morning. He's a wealth management advisor working in a principal role with Precious Timber. And I just want to jump on here and remind everyone, this is an opportunity that you really don't want to miss if you have any interest in investing. Timber, Coconut, Coffee, Discovery Tour. You can see the farms, meet the team. Saturday, November 4th, Sunday, November 5th in Nicaragua. I guarantee you they will take such great care of you. Hope to see you down there myself. And you'll not only be able to take a look at the potential for the investment, but actually see it. So my suggestion is, if you have legitimate interest, don't pass on this opportunity. And if you need to contact me, I will in turn contact the wonderful people at Precious Timber to make sure that we get this done for you. So back to Scott. Scott, what's included in the purchase price, and how do you break down those costs?
Okay, so in if we're particularly talk about the fund, the simple ownership of the 50% timber allocation, the 40% coconut production and allocation, and the 10% of the investment into coffee. So 50, 40, 10. I think that's important for an investor to kind of keep that in mind. So it's a diversification. So there's the land acquisition that is broken down in the investment, the valuations that are put on there. We looked at all the valuations, and they're absolutely correct in all the ways. And so the land acquisition is broke down in the investment. There's preparation and maintenance. So these are not only the crop care fees that go into it, but because the labor price, and we, of course, Precious Timber pays wonderful fair labors and employs a lot of people in Nicaragua. It's really wonderful to see the operation, but getting back to the prep and the maintenance. So some of the investment money will go into that, and then there's working capital, so that we use to continue on, but that's just a very small percentage. So most of the cost is actually owning as an individual investor, owning the particular plot that's GPSed and titled and gone through the real estate titling process. So that's how that works.
Scott, what's the typical amount of land that an investor will acquire by a purchase, and how many trees will that yield?
Well, it depends. For just on the minimums, the various types of investors that come have different needs. So on a coconut plantation, there are 1,680 trees, I believe. I'd have to look at my spreadsheet. And each one of those coconut trees has an annual production of coconuts. And so depending on how you're trying to match that to what that particular investor does. So each particular, there's a certain amount of coffee, there's a certain amount of timber in the fund, and then the coconuts. So that all comes together for a nice return. So,
there's always the issue of hidden costs. You buy this, and if you're an unsophisticated consumer, you find out you get nailed with this, you get nailed with that. Are there any other costs that will be incurred after the purchase?
Um, the the main cost that we have unbundled and pulled out would be the crop care fee. So there's an annual crop care fee in the fee simple ownership is a more simpler way to break it down. And that runs, I think for the first 2 years, that's included. That runs about $4,000 a year. So there's several ways you can pay that. But most of the clients just allow the production of it to pay their cross care fee or crop care fee. That's on an annual basis.
When you talk about the ownership of timberland, can you break down a demographic involved in this?
Well, absolutely. I think that's a wonderful question. I think that's one of the key questions as an advisor that I'm going to ask. I'm going to, open up a dialogue in really the client's overall holdings, and then look at exactly what we're trying to do in a financial planning scenario for these clients. So in the best suited client is one that's accredited. Okay, so an accredited investor is someone that has $1 million in investable assets or at least $200,000 in annual income. So if you have, if you're married, you have $300,000 of annual income, you qualify for this. And so the typical investor is someone that already has either a self-directed IRA or an IRA or after-tax money. They're looking to allocate towards these income and these wonderful investments for their portfolio, and typically they're accredited investors because it suits them so well. There are ways for non-accredited investors to invest in precious timber and their offerings. We just want to make sure that it's a great match. There's also another area. It's the institutional space and the family office area. So let's talk about the institutional. Institutionals will allocate towards agriculture, global agriculture in various types of ways that they have. Typically, with precious timber, with an institution, those are customized. Let's just say if it was $1 million and above, and Alex would actually customize that plantation agreement, the crop to fit them. So you get a little bit, quite a bit more value at the $1 million and above allocation. Typically, those are wealthy families, Stu, and institutions. In the family office area, with a family office is a family that typically has at least $15 million as a family money that they're investing, and they will allocate heavily towards timber and the coffee and the coconuts as well. So they have portions of their overall portfolio that go into that. So
all right, Scott Thomas, as always, a delight. We look forward to seeing you here next week. Precious Timber, PreciousTimber.com.